But first, let's talk about an issue that has been front and center in many states, for example, Colorado, as well as California. Now, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo seeks to revive a 1980 medical marijuana law to allow some state hospitals to dispense it to patients with cancer, glaucoma, and other illnesses. Now, he made the announcement in his State of the State address in Albany today. Gabriel Sayegh is the director of Drug Policy Alliance's New York Policy Office. He was there. He joins me by telephone, and joining me in the studio is Nison. He is the director of the Northeast Cannabis Division of Terra Corp. This is a company that hopes to grow medical quality marijuana for patients across the state. Let's just talk with you first to understand a little bit, what is the current rules and regulations that are in place in New York?
We're still not sure what's going to happen in New York. Governor Cuomo's proposal is very vague. We know that it's based on an outdated 1980 law, which gives us some concerns, and we're hopeful that Governor Cuomo will work with us in the legislature to pass more meaningful medical marijuana legislation.
Gabriel, can you describe what's your understanding of what the governor is proposing?
Well, the governor has come out in support of medical marijuana, which is itself a huge development and very, very important for New Yorkers and for the country. And what we need now is to ensure that New York has the best possible medical marijuana system in the nation. And to do that, we're going to need legislative action. The governor did not call for legislative action today, which we're disappointed by because reviving the 1980 Olivieri law is not a sufficient solution for patients in this state. But it is a good step because it'll get the state moving on developing the regulatory infrastructure necessary. But now we really need to take the next step and get over the finish line by passing the Compassionate Care Act and giving patients the relief that they have so long needed and deserve.
Evan, based on what you've seen develop in states such as Colorado and California, whose voters have already voted to change the law regarding marijuana consumption and marijuana growing, what are the differences? What are the nuances that need to be paid attention to?
For Terra Tech, there's a lot of different nuances. Terra Tech is actually setting up greenhouses all over the country right now and growing herbs, but we hope to eventually change to marijuana. So, of course, Colorado is a full legal system where companies like Terra Tech would be able to enter. New York, we're under the governor's current proposal, we're not sure that companies like Terra Tech would be able to enter. There's a lot of questions as to where the marijuana would come from. His initial announcement said that marijuana would be coming from law enforcement, which isn't a suitable solution, either for patients or companies who are looking to provide safe access like Terra Tech.
But why would why would you want to be in this end of the business in the first place? In other words, there might be profits in growing herbs and the kind of greenhouses that you described, things that are already legal. What's the impetus? Is it just the size of the potential reward?
It's an emerging industry, right? So Terra Tech is getting in on the ground floor, and there's roughly a lot of estimates have said approximately $100 billion industry when it's all said and done and America is fully legal. So it's an emerging industry, and it's one that investors are looking closer at now.
All right, I just want you to hold on if you can, Evan, and Gabriel, please just stay with us, because New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, he has a plan to revive medical marijuana laws, revise them. He made the announcement in his State of the State address in Albany today. Gabriel Sayegh is the director of Drug Policy Alliance's New York Policy Office. He was actually there, and he joins us on the telephone from Albany. Joining me in the studio, Evan Nison. He is the director of the Northeast Cannabis Division of Terra Corp. Gabriel, describe, if you can, going to the Capitol and hearing the State of the State speech.
Well, there were a lot of people here in Albany today, and a bunch of us had come up from New York City, and some patients, people living with MS and cancer, who have been fighting for medical marijuana, came from around the state to be here today to hear the governor's speech and to hear what he was planning to do with medical marijuana. And unfortunately, the patients were left feeling very, very disappointed. The governor's proposal is not a sufficient solution. And we have people in New York who are suffering right now. They are dying right now. They are facing terrible decisions of either having to leave the state to go to another state that provides medical marijuana, or to suffer needlessly, or to conduct a criminal act to obtain marijuana. So the governor didn't give much detail on his program. In his briefing book, what's been outlined is insufficient and actually entirely unworkable. So patients were left feeling both deflated on the one hand and on the other hand feeling more urgently committed than ever to come back to Albany and pressure lawmakers and the governor to pass the legislative reform that we need, since this proposal is not a sufficient solution.
Gabriel, what have we learned from the introduction of various marijuana laws in places like Colorado or California? How has that worked out?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the terrible things about the governor's proposal here is that it outlines what is essentially a research program, because it says we need to find out how to create a medical marijuana system and what will work. But we've got 20 states with medical marijuana programs now. We've had medical marijuana laws on the books in this country for 18 years. Countries like Canada and Israel have federal, national medical marijuana programs. We know how to do this, and we know how to do it right. We know how to make sure that patients get the medicine that they need. And so to do anything other than implement a program is putting patients at risk and allowing them to continue to suffer. And so we need to do a lot more here in New York before we can call New York the 21st state with medical marijuana, because we're not there yet.
Evan Nison, the investment opportunity, when you tell people that your company is interested in moving more into this industry, what kind of response have you received?
Great. As the regulatory environment gets better, so does investors' confidence. So as these laws progress and governors like Andrew Cuomo make announcements, even if they're sort of hollow, for now, from what we could tell, it does increase the confidence of investors and the industry that really wants to provide the safe access that New Yorkers want for patients.
I want to thank you very much for joining me, Evan Nison of Terra, much appreciated. And my thanks also to Gabrielle Saya, the Director of Drug Policy Alliance's New York Policy Office.